Hello everyone, this is Sodhi from CAAN Wings Consultants Private Limited. Welcome to my weekly YouTube session. I know you all have been through a long phase of negativity where everything, every news, every bit of information coming in did not quite align with your migration plans to Australia. But this video is about a little bit of news that is positive in every way. And I'd like you to watch this particular video till the end because I have some important information which I'll be walking you through right at the end of the video. So first of all, let's see what are the positive things, what this new year has brought in for us. So the first thing that is new for this year is that 489 visas have started to be granted. In fact, we recently received a 489 visa, of course, an offshore visa for one of our clients. So what that potentially means for you is that all of you who've been waiting with lodged applications and probably thinking that, it may be forever before we can expect any kind of decision, the Department of Home Affairs has actively started to process the applications and started to roll out the decisions. The next news I'm going to be sharing with you is that the partner migration applications, that is 309 applications, they are being allocated case officers and any request for outstanding documents are being issued. Earlier, partner migration applications were absolutely, they were in a state of a frozen situation where nothing was happening and they were not being contacted by the case officers as well. So now the case officers have very energetically, very actively started sending out requests for outstanding documents, and they are looking at finalizing these applications as well. And of course, when I say this, I'm talking about offshore migrants. I'm talking about applicants who are offshore, the partners of course being in Australia, but the applicants being offshore, outside Australia. And the next news, again, which is good, is that a lot of people have lodged their 491 visa applications, but they have not heard from the immigration department since then. Whatever time frames were given to them, those time frames have been exceeded and no word from the DHA so far. However, we have now, since January onwards, we started getting letters from the immigration department stating that the allocations of processing started. I mean, they started allocating processing and case officers. So all of you who've been just kind of wondering where the 491 visa application is going to take them, just watch out. You should be receiving a letter from the DHA very soon telling you that the processing of the case has begun, it has initiated. And another good news I'd like to share with you is that the EOIs that were lodged are subjected to selection rounds by the states, and the EOIs are being picked up. Like I shared in one of my previous videos, applicants, clients who are onshore applicants have already been picked up by certain states for nomination purposes. Now, this particular piece of information relates particularly to onshore applicants, but at least we do see a movement forward with the immigration department stepping up or gearing up. And the next news is that the invitation rounds by the DHA have been resumed. As you were aware that in the past few months, the invitation rounds had been stalled. There were no invitation rounds held for subclass 189 and subclass 491 relative sponsored. Again, please do not get confused between a 491 relative sponsored and a 491 state sponsored. A 491 state sponsored visa is not subject to any invitation rounds or high points. You need to proactively apply for a nomination. So the invitation rounds having been resumed, now the Immigration Department of Australia will be holding invitation rounds once in every 3 months. So on a quarterly basis, the invitation rounds will be held. Now with this, though this is good news, I would like to say here that for the 189 applicants and the 491 relative applicants, this may not be a very good news, because what it essentially means is that there would be fewer rounds. So they may want to consider routing their application through a 190 subclass or a 491 state-sponsored instead, to better their chances of getting a nomination or better their chances of getting an invitation to apply for a visa. And with the Christmas break being over, all the skills assessment bodies are back on track. They've resumed processing the applications. And please let me insist here that when we talk about the skills assessment, the skills assessments are being processed for both onshore as well as offshore applicants. So yes, they've started taking the applications for offshore migrants again, and the priority processing has also started for assessment bodies such as the Verices and the Engineers Australia. Now what I'd like to walk you through, as you can see on your screen, is a lot of times people think that, oh, maybe I'm too early to get started with my immigration process. So I'm just going to give you a timeline in order for you to see why you're not early, rather you're just on time, or you could be late in case you do not start with your immigration process immediately. So what actually happens is that the moment you get started with your immigration process, whether you do it yourself or you engage a migration agent, of course, the first and foremost thing you need to do is prepare the documents according to the document checklist that has been provided to you. Considering the exhaustive documentation and the kind of elaborate evidence that the skills assessment bodies need these days, it would easily take you around 10 to 15 days to compile the documentation which needs to be submitted to the assessment body for your skills assessment purposes. So we are already hitting the end of the month, that is January end, just another 7-8 days to go. Now, let's look at it this way. Let's look at it, say you decide to apply for Australia skilled migration in about a week's time, and you sign up. Let's say you sign up with us, and we give you a checklist of documents to send us. It'll take you about 10 to 15 days on an average for you to prepare your documents. It could also take you longer, let me tell you. And you would be ideally ready with the documents by the 15th of February. So once you give us the documents and we, review the documents at our end and do our thing about preparing the application, and we launch the application, it would take around 10 to 12 weeks for the Verices to give you a positive assessment. Now, why I'm talking specifically about Verices is because it is the largest assessment body that conducts assessments for a very, very large number of occupations. So chances are there that a lot of people who are seeking assessments need to route their applications through Verices. So since they take about 10 to 12 weeks, you can expect to get your decision on your skills assessment by 15th of May. And once we get a decision, then we need to lodge your EOI, and followed by lodging your EOI. Now, lodging an EOI doesn't really take long, but then yes, preparing your application for state nomination does take some time, because we prepare an applicant's nomination application keeping in mind the varied criteria of different states. Now, the criteria for a nomination for NSW could be very different from South Australia. It could be very different from ACT. There are some bodies, let's say like the ACT, that need exhaustive job search. They don't want you to have a job offer, but they want you to prove that you've been researching a job in your particular field over a period of, let's say, 4 to 5 weeks or so. So even if we expedite all of that, we would be probably ready with the documentation in about 15 days time. So let's say by 1st of June, we would be ready with the documentation to launch your application for nomination. And as you're aware, that 30th of June is the last day of the immigration year. On 1st of July 2021, the next immigration year, that is 21-22, will begin, and usually states immediately are allocated the quota for nomination. Of course, last year it could not happen because of the COVID, everything got delayed, but this is not going to happen this time, and the states will be immediately given their quota perhaps by the end of June, and from 1st July onwards, the states will begin their nomination exercise. So having said this, I'm not saying that nominations will not happen before that. They can happen, they will happen before that, but I'm talking very realistically with a hypothetical assumption that, let's say the nominations don't even open up in let's say March, April, May. Still, a person who wants to get started with his or her application today is just in time to get nominations for July. So if you start today, you're probably working towards, or you're looking towards nominations that are to open in July. If you are looking for nominations that could open prior to July, you will have to probably route your application through priority or fast track processing. Or of course, those who already have a positive skills assessment, they are the ones who can take advantage of the nominations that are to open. Those who are yet thinking of starting the process cannot plan, or let's say put together everything before the July nomination intake. So I hope this makes things a little clearer. Once you want to get started with us, what you need to do is, first of all, please send us your CV. I'd like to have very detailed CVs with detailed updated information for me to evaluate it and be able to identify the occupation and the visa subclass and give you advice accordingly. So please email us your CV on CaanWings@gmail.com. That is CaanWings@gmail.com. A lot of clients have asked as to why we do not use our official email ID, that is info@caanwings.com or inquiries@caanwings.com. We do face some sort of a glitch with that. A lot of times the CVs go into the spam folder. Gmail is better because we don't end up missing any email or any CVs that way. And once we receive your CV, within 24 hours, we'll revert. We'll give you a free assessment, a free advice on your eligibility. And if you're happy with the process that we've explained to you, the category we finalized for you, and our cost that is set for the Australian migration consultation, you can sign up with us immediately and we get started with that. So until next week, this is it. I hope to see you again next week. But in the meantime, I want you to look at the timeline that I discussed with you very carefully. And please remember that we are just at the brink of being on time. We are not early. We can be rather late if we take longer to start or to initiate our application for skilled migration, that is subclass 189, 190 or 491. So until next time, bye-bye and take care.